Hello, this is Nelson Brigon in the Office of Field Policy and Management in Headquarters. Welcome to our briefing on Field Office Continuity of Operations, or COOP. Today, we will be discussing important elements for your fiscal year 2016 COOP plans, how they link to the headquarters COOP plan, and lessons learned from implementing these plans in Region 2. I am joined today by Tony Hebert, FPM Disaster Recovery Coordinator for all of our 10 regions. He will address frequently asked questions about COOP, plans in the field, and highlight areas of focus across your continuity efforts. We're also joined today by two of our most experienced COOP subject matter experts in the field and at HUD headquarters. Henry Comas, FPM Region 2 Disaster and COOP Coordinator in New York, and Jim Wallace, Emergency Management Specialist, Office of Disaster Management and National Security in HUD headquarters. Mr. Comas will share lessons learned from implementing COOP plans in Region 2 following Sandy and other disasters. Mr. Wallace will discuss the HUD headquarters COOP plan, updates to the federal continuity directives, devolution across offices, and the recent Eagle Horizon national exercise. If you have questions after viewing this training, please send to Tony Hebert. Mr. Hebert will ensure that your questions get routed appropriately and answered. Mr. Hebert, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Brigon, and thank you to everyone in the field who's been working on their COOP plans for this fiscal year. As everyone knows, those plans, updates to those plans using our fiscal year 2016 COOP plan template for field offices are due June 30th, 2016, and the tests for those plans are also due at that time. We are asking each of the regions to submit all their COOP plans in one email submission to us with the test date for each field office in the body of the email. Like last year, the minimum threshold for the test is simply a phone cascade. Testing that is sufficient for our COOP plan test this fiscal year. If you want to do more, that is fine. We're ready to support you. So please contact us if you intend to do an exercise here before the deadline, and we're happy to assist you. One important element of the COOP plans that we get a lot of questions about is the mission essential functions. And these functions, which there's an active effort at headquarters, which Jim Wallace is going to get into in a little bit, to define these functions. There's active effort. These functions defined at headquarters are tied back into the functions for the field office. So you as a field office director working on your COOP plan, working to pull together the COOP plan across the offices, you're going to want to talk to each of your program divisions about what their mission essential functions are as part of this new effort to define them from headquarters. Those need to be in your COOP plan, and as I said, they will be in alignment with the headquarters COOP plan now. Another important piece is devolution. Jim is also going to talk about devolution today. In particular, he's going to get into how headquarters devolves to a number of our regional offices. We've had a lot of questions around what happens when offices from headquarters devolve to Atlanta or Kansas City or Chicago. But another issue we're having with devolution is field offices understanding exactly where all the program offices for a given office, where they devolve, because they don't always devolve to the same place that FPM does. So it's important within your COOP plan to have this laid out and for you to understand where, for example, PIH is going to go relative to housing. I mean, maybe you all go to the same location, maybe not, but you need to know how that works. And then, which Jim is going to get into, the extra layer for those of you who are receiving headquarters offices, you need to understand that as well. Okay. Another important aspect of this, which ties into devolution, is continuity facilities. Henry Comas, out of our New York office, is going to talk quite a bit about making sure that your continuity facilities are what you need them to be so you can actually implement your COOP. They have a lot of lessons learned from this in terms of alternative sites and devolution in New York following Sandy and other disasters, and he's going to go into quite a bit of detail in terms of things you should be looking for as you develop these sites for implementation of your COOP plan. Again, these locations are where you would continue your mission essential functions. Now, another element that needs to be updated with the COOP each year is the emergency relocation group members. You want to make sure that you have the current contact information for all these folks. You want to make sure that people on your list from last year are still able to perform this function. And you want to make sure that all the applicable collective bargaining obligations are satisfied for the staff. This is an important element of continuity. Without this group, the continuity plan breaks down. So make sure that you've got a solid list of folks who understand what their roles and responsibilities are as part of COOP. Now, as Jim and Henry walk you through both what's going on at headquarters, principles of devolution that we want you to think about, and the importance of continuity facilities and all the lessons learned in New York, you're going to hear 4 phases mentioned now and then in terms of how your COOP plan is implemented. You're going to be hearing about readiness and preparedness. You're going to be hearing about activation and relocation, which is the initial part of the COOP implementation. You're going to be hearing a lot about continuity operations and devolution. And Henry's going to talk a little bit about reconstitution as well. Those are the 4 phases of the COOP process. Each of your COOP plans have these components in them within the template that you're using, and you want to make sure that the elements that we highlight today are solid in your plan to ensure that you can implement the COOP plan across these 4 phases. With that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Jim Wallace. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm an emergency management specialist in the Office of Disaster Management and National Security, and we are a part of Office of Administration. But I'm also the headquarters continuity planning officer that develops the continuity plan for the headquarters and works closely with FPM on policy and guidance that goes to the region and field offices. Today, the purpose of my continuity briefing is to talk about the relationship of the HUD headquarters COOP plan in relation to the field. We'll talk a little bit about the Eagle Horizon 2016 exercise and some new continuity projects that we have going on this year, some of them as a result of the Eagle Horizon 2016 exercise that was conducted on May 16th and 17th, just a few weeks ago. The ODMS mission is we work closely with the FEMA National Continuity Program Office to take the guidance at the federal level and take it back to the department, incorporate it into our headquarters COOP plan, and then FPM is part of our continuity organization, where FPM then takes that guidance and puts it out to the regional offices and field offices so that we have a cohesive and a plan, both a total headquarters plan and field plan that meet the requirements of FCD1. The connection between the continuity plan and other plans, the first role of the headquarters continuity operation plan is for the field office to know where the headquarters is going to go, to outline where our emergency relocation group will go. And we go through all the same phases: readiness, preparedness, activation, deployment, and then essential function operations at our relocation site. But beyond that, it provides guidance for that all the field office directors need to know: the location of the deputy secretary, the leadership, the order of succession, who's in charge, whether we go to the emergency relocation site or we have to devolve. But there's another plan that we're trying to update, and it's been a few years since we got this updated, is the HUD Handbook 3205.1, HUD Continuity of Operations, COOP. This handbook kind of distills down what is in the Federal Continuity Directive 1, because many of the requirements that's in FCD1 pertain to at the department level. And we take out, of course we do the department level requirements, but we take out, and this handbook outlines what the regional and field offices need to do, and it serves as kind of distillation of FCD1. And the role of the office continuity implementation plans That's very important, like Tony said. Each program and support office at headquarters has an implementation plan that executes the base guidance in the headquarters plan itself. So it's not a reiteration of the entire headquarters COOP plan, but it outlines how the housing office, how Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Office, how CPD will relocate and execute their portion of the ERG deployment. Another area of the plan is very important is the Mission Essential Functions, Essential Supporting Activities piece. The program offices have established a new MEF's Mission Essential Functions in accordance with updated guidance from FEMA. We have been working on that for the past 2 years. And the support offices are in the final stages of updating their essential supporting activities and their business process analysis documentation. It has taken us a while, and I'll talk about that more later, but what we wanted to do was not just task this out and have one person in each office write the whole thing. We actually tasked it out, and each office formed teams of program delivery experts that really got down to the base information. These program delivery experts were the experts in each of the essential functions of an office, and then we got it down on paper. These people have been working here at HUD for 20, 30 years, and these documents, I can't overemphasize them because they're very important to you in the regional field offices to use for your own plans. But the outcome is a single set of essential functions from each office approved by the Assistant Secretary and the GDASs. So we've actually asked the Assistant Secretaries to sign off on the identification phase of the essential functions, and the General Deputy Secretaries have signed off on the business process analysis piece because that's the operations of each office. Updating concept of operations, we are planning to expand the options that are available to the HUD headquarters. We outline now that we go to Richmond, the Richmond field office for our emergency relocation site. We're going to identify other areas within the National Capital Region that the leadership can use to go to if the event that is causing a problem is not of such a nature that causes us to leave Washington. Those options will be in the updated plan. We are incorporating more use of telework. In this past Eagle Horizon exercise, we had 85 people telework during the exercise. That's a very high amount. But we're limited on space to the people who can occupy the ERS, which is 110 ERG members. So we have to learn and put down on paper how we're going to better coordinate telework. A greater emphasis on devolution. We did exercise part of the devolution plan with Atlanta activating the plan while we moved on May 16th from Washington to Richmond. That worked out very well, and we also used it during the Pope's visit back in September 2015. And then implementation of devolution, Tony mentioned this, in conjunction with the COOP. Devolution is just a good practice to use anytime that you move your site from your regional office to your COOP site. It's just a good practice to use that some other agency is watching and covering while the main body moves. The federal FY16 Federal Continuity Directive 1 update. For the past several months, FEMA has been talking to us at their interagency COOP working group meetings that the White House is close to signature on a new Presidential Decision Directive 8, which covers national preparedness. So usually what happens at the end of every 8-year administration, this is what normally happens. FEMA is waiting on the final PPDA to be signed, and then Federal Continuity Directive 1 will be updated. They have stated they have done updates, but before they put the final copy out for coordination with all of the departments and agencies, they have to wait for the PPD8. HUD headquarters then will use the revised FCD1 to update the headquarters COOP plan. And we'll also then use that in our update for the Handbook 3205.1. The FY16 HUD Handbook 3205 update, we are going to pursue that after FEMA comes out with the FCD1 change. But that provides policy and guidance, as I said, to managers and supervisors, field office directors, and staff on the development of COOP plans that are required at the regional and field level. You can read FCD 1, that's fine, and there's a lot of good guidance in that, but it's really a combination of both that we try to distill down what's actually needed at the regional field office level. And then this document will help to implement FCD 1 requirements and National Security Presidential Directive 51 and Homeland Security Directive HSPD 20. On a mission essential functions and business process analysis update, like I said earlier, we have completed the initial MEF business process analysis update for the program offices. They are documents that are signed off by the assistant secretaries and the general deputy assistant secretaries. So one thing we wanted to do is take the time, and I won't reiterate the process too much again, but we wanted to take the time to do this right and not just go into a room somewhere with 6 or 7 people and come out and say, here it is. This is totally staffed within each office, and it has to become part of the way we do business. But what we're finding out is this documentation that you're going to see once you call your respective program offices to get a copy, you can use this for training. You can use this for new personnel orientation. If someone says, what does the housing office do? There's a complete statement of all 6 to 7 essential function statements with the narrative. The narratives have recovery time objectives that the RTOs, what we found out is that not all functions need to be responded to and essential functions done at the same time. There could be a lag of 24 hours, 48 hours before that function has to be done. And this is very important because if 160 or 200 ERG members crash on a COOP site at one time, we're finding out through the process of this essential function operation that it's better to phase people in and have a phased COOP deployment where you want to focus on those functions that have a short recovery time objective and save the ones that can be done within 4 days or 30 days for later. The support offices, they went through the same process to identify what they do to support the program offices, and then a full BPA was conducted. The business process analysis forms, we followed the guidance in FCD 2 for this, but we developed a form, which you'll see, that outlines who are the personnel that have to do this function by series and grade, what leadership has to be there, what are the communication requirements or special IT systems that have to be activated. We ask questions of, can this function be done by telework? Does the function have special signatory capability that a leader has to be present to sign the documentation before it's put out to the field from the COOP site? So there's a whole host of valuable information that's been gleaned from this process. That's why it's taken 2.5 years. Another result is that now we can put names to the essential function people that have been identified. You may have a requirement for a GS-15, step whatever, the GS-14, but now the continuity coordinators at headquarters are putting names and faces to these functions, and there'll be a complete revision of the ERG rosters. This, we're finding, is a better way. We're finding that the ERG rosters are being cut down. They really didn't need that many people that they had on their initial ERG rosters. And we're calling this the ERG Refresh Program. As I said before, we only have 110 cubicles and offices at the Richmond field office, and we get great support from the Richmond field office, but we have 167 people on the ERG team itself. So that means that some people are going to have to telework if we come out with that many requirements. But as Tony said, the regional and field offices, you can contact your program offices and request copies of the MEF and BPA templates from each of your respective program offices, and you'll probably learn a lot from them. The next step in this process, and it's not on the slide, but we'd like to bring it to ground by creating what's called ERG member desk side guides. So even though the BPA is a pretty good breakdown of the function and the process that we go through to conduct the essential function, the desk side guide will be like a mini SOP, so that if the primary people do not make it to the COOP site for whatever reason, road blockages, whatever the natures of the emergency, anyone can pick up that ERG desk side guide in that office and continue the essential function. So that's the end result, and maybe we won't get to that until FY17, but that's the projection for the MEF and the BPA process. In the area of devolution, again, you know that the devolution is a transfer of essential functions as a result of a COOP event to another organizational element. So devolution means that the main ERG here at headquarters, something has happened at this building that's so devastating, an explosion or something happening in DC, that the ERG members cannot, from headquarters, get to their emergency relocation site. So therefore, the devolution site in Atlanta, we've also talked about using Region 6 in Dallas-Fort Worth, can take over. But some of the requirements for this is that there has to be a successor, a political appointee successor at the devolution site to become the new secretary until the secretary is found or taken to the site or identified. The objectives of the devolution plan should be that we have identified the designated devolution sites that are going to be used, and Tony talked about that it really behooves you to know, and we have an upcoming slide to show the locations that we know of now, so that either a regional field office can use those sites, or you know where to contact the people playing the headquarters team are in the devolution scenario. And then to identify and facilitate transfer of the essential functions to the site and identify possible triggers for activation. And as you know, in the devolution plans that you have, there's active triggers and passive triggers. An active trigger is that which is a sudden event that happens, and a passive trigger is that you can know about a plan, know about a threat, and then execute devolution. So like we do whenever the ERG team from headquarters moves. We're going to adopt that as a policy in the future, that we do that automatically, and that'll be written into our COOP plan. The information on devolution of essential functions triggers that initiate devolution process, and the specification on how and when the control will transfer should be an annex to the field office COOP plans. The annex should also include important information about the devolution site, staff responsibilities, points of contact, and linkages to the reconstitution plan. So we intend that this year, now that we have Eagle Horizon out of the way, and we're in the process of after action on that, we can devote more time to the devolution plan. And it has to be done in a coordinated effort with FPM and the regional offices such as Atlanta and Dallas-Fort Worth, because it won't work if headquarters develops a plan and then puts it out and says, this is it, this is how it works. There needs to be coordination, and the Atlanta people need to be actively writing parts of the plan. And then, I just want to say what FEMA states. We have to identify the actors who are going to play each of us on the stage. And that'll be a one-for-one. If there's a GS-15 that's identified in a BPA or a GS-14 with a certain mission essential function, then there should be an actor that plays that person at the other site. It won't work out in all cases. There may be groups that do it. But I think we're really whittling down to now that we know what we know about essential functions at headquarters and at the region and field offices, we can better be prepared to do the devolution planning right now. This slide shows the current headquarters devolution sites. We have been working with the program offices to identify these sites. They're written into our plan, our Annex I to our headquarters COOP plan annex. And you see that a lot of these have possibly grown up historically over time. because when you look at CFO, they go to Dallas-Fort Worth, the Finance Accounting Center. There's reasons why these sites have gone to these areas. The Region 5 admin in Ochico, there's a lot of relationship between Ochico and Region 5 in the past. But even if the Atlanta serves as the main relocation site, it's okay to have a decentralized concept like this, and it's actually better not to have all your eggs in one basket, all your leadership at one place, when a serious event like this is happening in the country. Because if devolution occurs, the whole order of succession structure for the department is shaken until the secretary can be identified and taken to Atlanta, and then he'll assume, or she, the deputy secretary, will assume control of the department. Okay, but I just wanted to reiterate that you can reach out to your program offices, talk about these sites, and as we do continue planning with FPM and Region 4, we'll keep you abreast of the planning elements to get this plan written jointly so that everybody agrees to it, and then we can get to the day when actual DIRG members will be the Devolution Emergency Response Group personnel can be identified. That's the key to get to that point where the DIRG members can be identified and then have active testing. I just wanted to mention that the Department of Labor this year, they exercised their devolution site in Dallas-Fort Worth, which we had great support from Mr. Steve COOP and others in Region 4 that served as external evaluators for labor. That worked out very well, and they exercised their devolution plan in labor as part of the Eagle Horizon 2016. So we will get there to do that someday. As part of Eagle Horizon overview, Eagle Horizon was an annual full-scale continuity exercise, like you know, where all the federal departments and agencies, including our headquarters, deploy from Washington to our emergency relocation sites. Our site is in Richmond, but it was a component exercise of the Capstone Exercise 2016. And just briefly, a Capstone series of exercises was a series of 5 linked exercises sponsored by the National Exercise Program of FEMA. It included Office of Defense National Intelligence, DOD, FBI, and DHS working in a series of tabletops to track a weapons of mass destruction material through the Bahamas into our country, up into Washington, D.C., during from April 25th to May 13th. And then in these series of exercises that were conducted at the national level, the FBI reported in their exercise, Marble Challenge, they reported to the president, and I have to say this, exercise, because what we're going to talk about here is exercise is fictitious. It was part of a larger exercise, and it's not a real event. But they could not they rendered one IND, improvised nuclear device, safe, but they couldn't render the other device safe. So they recommended to the president that the continuity of government condition level be raised to 1, and that's what caused our ERG to deploy on Eagle Horizon. So it was really the most plausible scenario I've ever seen run. So on May 15th, we received the alert message, and then the team moved out. We went to our ERS in Richmond. We had great support from the people in Richmond in processing our team members, establishing our leadership, and then working there for 2 days. The FEMA message went out on May 15th, and then our exercise play started on May 16th. There was an exercise conducted concurrently called Homeland Security Exercise Gradient Aspect, and that was a tabletop that was done just to evaluate how well we participated, that all the agencies participated in the exercise. And I wanted to mention that during this exercise, we were evaluated by FEMA. This was an even year event, so they evaluated our deployment and also our program. During the exercise, just like when in any disaster response and recovery operation, and we talked about that earlier, the personnel accountability and life safety of the workforce was a priority for the leadership, the exercise leadership that was there. We went through a series of discussions of how personnel accountability would be taken in the department, everything from using the 1-800 HUD info. Ochiko explained how all that process worked in our public affairs office. And we also mentioned our HUD emergency notification system that was rolled out last year, how we talked about how that would be used. And people, that's a voluntary program. People don't have to sign up for it, but if you can talk it up in your regional field offices, that would be great, because the more people that sign up for that, that is a real good way for leadership to find out who's present and who isn't. Communications throughout the department, we looked at that, how to talk to the regional offices and field offices vertically, horizontally. We also were in touch with FEMA and the White House from the site. One first I wanted to mention, we talked on secure televideo conference, secure VTC, from the ERS to the White House National Security Council. So we were part of that VTC, and it worked out very well. Preservation and protection of HUD buildings. The second day, the first day was dedicated to consequence management. How do we respond to a WMD threat? And then the second day was reconstitution. And our Office of Facility Management Services was highly involved with that. We found out some things about reconstitution that we probably need to address with GSA, but we participated in a pilot program where FEMA, who is now the proponent agency for reconstitution with GSA, they wanted to test out a reconstitution status report, an RSR form. We sustained damage to the HUD building. Several injuries occurred in the building because of a detonation of the device. And then we had to put that in the RSR report and send it back to FEMA as part of the exercise. And we were one of 12 agencies across the federal government that participated. And then anticipation and assessment of potential impacts on operations and programs. We talked about at the senior leadership level, what are the impacts of a weapons of mass destruction device going off in D.C., and how are our buildings here, every place from the D.C. field office to the Weaver building to the Potomac Center, how are they affected by the event, and what effect does that have on our programs? And then our future projects that we're going to work on at the headquarters department level, the NEP Capstone Eagle Horizon After Action Report. We have several action items that we're working on the After Action Report now, and we have a need for some higher level IT support. We have great IT support, but we need some more speed. We need possibly some more bandwidth. When you have that many people working out of the site, processing that much information, we will have to increase the bandwidth and maybe some of the routing, where the Richmond field office is honed off of Region 3, and is a little bit of lag time at the site. So we're going to work on those things. We'll come up with a corrective action program for these items, and then work on them throughout the year as we go to our next Eagle Horizon in 2017. We will start the headquarters devolution plan update. Tony and I have discussed some initial thoughts on how to approach this. FEMA has a devolution planning workshop that's excellent, that can be conducted as a starting point at the Region 4 office, and then we can decide on a phased approach as we develop the plan and identify the DIRG members, and as we move through the rest of 2016 into 2017, so that all of the regional field offices have devolution plans that, and the field offices that mirror and work in concert with the headquarters plan. Essential records packets update. We currently have 2 sets of essential records for each program and support office at the ERS in Richmond. One set would remain at the site in Richmond, and the other eventually will be moved to the devolution site. These are hard copy records that sometimes can't be, are not on the J drives. The ideal would be that all of our information is held electronically on the J drives or SharePoint, and we're working towards that. But we do have an active essential records packet program, and we can provide information to you on how to do that at the region, for your own plans. The ERG roster refresh project, we mentioned that previously. Now that we have the BPAs outlined and we know the series and the grades of the people who should be on the ERG, because that's the key. You should not be on the ERG roster if you're a person who just likes to travel and goes to a different site and you happen to be 30 years old and not married. That's not the criteria. The criteria is that you're the program delivery expert in a certain field and you need to be on there to conduct an essential function. So we think that the BPAs will really help us with this project and then help us with the final laydown of exactly what ERG member will be sitting in our ERS site. And it will help you in your planning efforts too. We need to start an ERG familiarization training program that at least all new ERG members that are assigned can, here at headquarters, go through a series of briefings that will completely update them on how that they are an ERG member, what they need to put in their go bags, to how to prepare for their families that they leave behind, and how they get to the site, the basics. And I'm a real proponent of, if you get the basics right, the other things will fall in place. So we want to start an active familiarization training program that's conducted monthly. It'll be open to the program and support offices, and all of these things that we develop at headquarters, we can provide the slides, and you can adapt them at the regional and field office level. As I said, we will be updating the continuity plan and the handbook. We did do a slight update of the plan, which was used in March and April for part of the Eagle Horizon even year evaluation from FEMA, but we still need to add the options of deploying to different places, different buildings within the National Capital Region, to give the leadership the options they need and not just have the one option going to the ERS. And then the alternate HUD Emergency Operation Upgrade Project. As you know, we operate an EOC up here at headquarters, and the watch guys who you heard from John Ursery this morning, what we're trying to do is replicate the HEOC in Richmond. We have many systems down there. We have the secure video teleconference down there in a SCIF, but the Washington area-wide alert system, WAWAS, we need to get that circuit in there and kind of do some reorganization so that we have the same capability. And we want to get to a point where we can jump the HEOC on not a daily basis, but jump the HEOC periodically so that the watch officers get used to changing over and transferring command operations to the ERS. That concludes my briefing. I'd like to turn it over now to Mr. Henry Comas from FPM Region 2, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call our office or go to Tony with any questions that you may have. We're here as your resource with the information that you need. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Comas.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. My name is Henry Comas. I'm the Regional Disaster Region 2 COOP Coordinator here in the New York Regional Office. I'm responsible for Albany, Buffalo, and the Newark Field Office. Planning for COOP is not just writing a plan, but thinking through all of the organizational needs, processes, and elements of the plan. The actual operations of a COOP deployment require process and a decision to take place, and therefore must rely on readiness and preparation. Once planning is underway, preparation should begin to turn your COOP planning theory into reality. With that, I'd like to look at some of the at the PowerPoint and some of the bullet points that I have. And what I'm going to do is discuss what you need to do to have your COOP sites prepared, and try to infuse a little bit of our experiences here in the New York office with Sandy and some of the other disasters that we had. Being capable to implement your COOP plan with or without warning is very important. We were fortunate here for Sandy that we had a pre-announced COOP. We knew Sandy was coming. We had at least 48 hours to prepare, make sure our communications were in, that our ERG was in, to identify our alternative site, which is our Newark field office, to make sure it was hot and operational. And I'll discuss the difference between cold and hot operational COOP facilities in my presentation. Also, making sure that you're up and ready 12 hours after activation. And that is even if it's through telework and at the facility, but most importantly, trying to contact those ERG members, making sure where they're at. Again, here in the New York office with Sandy, there were some ERG members that we couldn't contact due to the lack of electricity, to the point that it went to day 3, and we worked out an arrangement with the Inspector General's office here at HUD, who were members of service and had police identification or the proper identification, to go through the barriers, because some areas were curfewed, to see where our ERG members were and to make sure they were okay. And so that was important work in conjunction with OIG. The other thing is making sure your COOP site is operational for a 30-day period. And that goes into the point of having enough food, some water, at least for the next 3 days. But even more, you want to understand and try to identify restaurants that are in the area, if they're open, and they deliver, any hotels that might be in the area also for those that are not sleeping in the COOP site. And those that are, if you have any cots that might be available, it's based on the hazard or the degree of the disaster there was. And you also want to have an orderly recovery from the operations back to your Region 2 primary site, which is basically reconstitution. And with that, at your alternative site, you might want to have a reconstitution kit. This kit would have, based on the degree of damage at your primary building, you might want to have some flashlights, identification tags, walkie-talkie systems. If you're going to reconstitute back to your primary site, there probably is no electricity. The phones won't be working, so you might want to have a set of walkie-talkies. You might also want to have some vests to identify you as HUD reconstitution team. So you might want to consider that in your COOP site to have available once you go back in the reconstitution aspect of your COOP to your primary site. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, what we do here in the New York office, we try to do an annual tour and orientation of our COOP site for either new ERG members and also for the facility to make sure that the alternative COOP site is up and operational. And I do that in cooperation with my other COOP coordinators that are in the other field offices. And based on that, as stated by Jim earlier, you want to know, as a COOP coordinator and also as the ERG, where the vital records are located at, where the databases are at, reference materials. And I'm suggesting, and I'm assuming based on the ERG description which is going to be formulated and disseminated later on, that'll be part of this in the COOP site. What's imperative is you want to inspect the required number of desks, the phones, workstations, any computers. What we've done here in the New York office is that in our field offices, we try to use the existing training rooms. In the New York field office COOP site, which is the Newark site, Newark has a training room, and for us it's perfect because it has a series of computers, individual stations that our ERG members can come sit down, tie right into their systems to determine what situation is going on, and it has an opportunity for our phones. The IT person is normally on site. His responsibility is to make sure that room is hot, and by hot I mean that it's functional and operational, and also any projection and meeting spaces. So we tend to really consider and utilize our training rooms. Next slide, please. Again, as stated, we want to review the configuration of any equipment and the facilities to accommodate the COOP, if there's any special instructions on any projection devices, any special instructions on any of the VTC, trying to communicate through the internet. We want to make sure we have that information. What's important also is your location facility guide. You want to make sure that in that COOP, that your ERG members know exactly where the COOP site is, what roads lead into the COOP site, any tolls, bridges, parking. You want to make sure they know where parking is located. So you want to have that location facility guide available to them. COOP site provisions. Again, communications is extremely important. You want at your COOP site, you want to make sure you have alternate series of communications. If you're fortunate to have a satellite phone, you might want to utilize that. Your basic telephones, cell phones, because it's not just important communicating with the other HUD staff, but you want to be able to communicate externally. And since we're very customer-based, it's critical for us to make sure that we're communicating with our consumers and also with the public. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, what's important, though, is the physical security and access controls. The alternate COOP facility might be a private building. It might not be a GSA building. Your HUD PVI card might not be accepted. So in advance, you want to speak to the security company at that particular location, at that building. Provide them a listing of all the ERG members. Update that yearly for them when you do on your annual COOP visit. So in the case of a deployment, their information and their information is already present. And also, if there's any available parking slots, you want to lock that in also for the staff. Again, making sure that the alternative COOP site has your water, electrical power, heating, air conditioning, and it's functional. Health and safety for those employees. As Jim said earlier, if they do have a go bag, if they have their proper medications, any other areas of safety that we would have to consider prior, and they can prepare themselves if they are going to be deployed. And some of us might have to create a memo of understanding here in Region 2. Our Albany field office has a memo of understanding with another federal agency, and you want to work that out. The devils are in the details and the workstations. What time you can come into the COOP site? How long can you stay in the COOP site? Are they giving us 30 days? Do we have a meeting area? The IT, are we talking to the building's IT or to the host IT to make sure that we can tap into their systems? So you want to look at the MOU and address all those particular items. Next slide, please. That's it. What I'd like to do is just in conclusion, the ability to execute a plan or action requires some familiarity on the part of those that are actually putting the COOP together. The more practice that is made available, the more likely that it is an action will become more routine. We sink to the level of our training. And it can be accomplished in a timely manner without significant problems. Therefore, the readiness and preparation may discover alternate approaches to solve unseen problems. Preparation is not a one-time deal. We must practice for critical activities is vital and to ensure that the ERG is acting as a team. And with that, I'd like to pass this over to Mr. Bergon, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Comas. We appreciate the work done by you and others in the field to prepare for and respond to events that threaten the continuity of HUD operations. Please continue your diligence across these matters and let us know if you need any technical assistance or support. Mr. Hebert and others on our headquarters team are ready and able to support your efforts. Thank you again for your time and commitment.